We commence the discussions on the main issues we've been talking about, and Dr. Abdul Rashid Pelpo is in the studio. He's a member of parliament for Wa Central, and he also is here alongside Obiam Osebunsuama, member of parliament for Equapim South.
Office of the President.
Okay, and he is the Minister of State at the Presidency in charge of the private sector or the PPPs. And when we are talking about PPP, we say is it public-private partnerships. We know that is a new thing now. Even the UK, they just passed a regulation on it some few months ago, just to make sure that everything is ironed out and tight. And I guess that's the new world order now. But the president has not been happy about many things, especially the way he thinks the media seem to misconstrue certain public information and also give negative headlines, he says, to things that are related to government. And it's just about a GI sponsored or promoted barometer or survey for the Transparency International, which is the international wing, on perceived corruption in Africa. And the media subsequently also reported it to mean that Ghana was second, sandwiched between South Africa and Nigeria, to be the most corrupt in Africa. The president has not been too happy about it. We have an insert of him. We'll find the insert very soon. Would want to watch what he said, and then we'll try to have some responses. The president, anti-corruption, the GI, and what he says the media has misconstrued. Okay, so let me come to you first, Dr. Rashid Pelpo.
Yeah, thank you very much, and good morning to our viewers. The idea or the perception that Ghana is corrupt, which is the subject matter of discussion today, must be a concern to all Ghanaians, not only to those who are at the leadership. What we call corruption has a meaning beyond a government official being corrupt. It has an indication of a social system agreeing to corrupt themselves. And it has an implication that tells you that the people must sit up. The people who are corrupt define themselves and manifest themselves in their approach to life, at all facets of life. All the offices that are in operations, if they ask you about corruption and you say yes, there's corruption, including private businessmen who try to corrupt government officials, as you see in the judiciary, and the students who are giving pressure on other officials to go and get them into schools at the expense of those who are qualified, those who are going to talk to people. They call their MPs, their ministers, their big men in offices and say, look, I'm looking for this job. I want you to go and put your hand in it so that I'll get it at the expense of somebody else who will qualify. Those are all symptoms of a sick society. It's not just about government being corrupt. So that's why I'm saying that it should be a concern to all of us, that if we perceive, it might not be the reality, but if we perceive ourselves to be corrupt in that direction, then we have to all sit up and begin to change our attitude towards it. And what the president was talking about was to say that given all the situations that existed the last time they did the index, if Ghana was placed as one of the best places to do business without corruption, given that situation, they ask you, that's the standard. Are you saying that the corruption has reduced or has increased, or is the same? Then many more people said that, well, there's no difference between what we saw the last time and now. Now, the results then came out and they said that Ghana is second most corrupt
in Africa.
In Africa. It does not depict the reality of the situation. What it tells is that if Ghana was not as corrupt as we see the last time. For example, if the grading was that Ghana was about, they did 28 out of 51 countries in Africa. And if they did if the last time Ghana was...
We have 55 countries in Africa.
But 55, yeah, okay.
South Sudan just joined.
South Sudan just joined? Is it 55 or 52?
55 now.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, if Ghana was supposed to be maybe 10th, and you now ask, has anything changed? And they said, many people say, no, nothing has changed. And you take the results, and you say that Ghana is second most corrupt. It's not depicting the reality. It's not even giving the fact that Ghana is a corrupt country. What it tells you is that people feel that it is the same thing as it used to be. And as it used to be, Ghana was 10th, not second most corrupt. So that's why the president was saying that that analysis and that grading or index that is tagged to Ghana is incorrect and does not depict the real situation. Yes.
Obi.
Yes.
Your preliminary comments on this before I ask you the next one.
Well, you were hoping to show the...
Oh, it's ready if you want to watch before you go.
Yeah.
Okay, President, please go on.
Plan in Accra. President Mahama accused some political leaders in the country and sections of the media of deliberately distorting the report.
Just last week, Transparency International released a report on corruption which it partnered with the Afrobarometer to conduct in some 28 African countries. This report, called the Global Corruption Barometer, is not the more famous Corruption Perception Index, CPI, published regularly by Transparency International. The objective of the Global Corruption Barometer was to seek the views of citizens on how corruption has changed in their countries over the past 12 months. This report was not an index and did not seek to rank countries in order of perception of corruption as the CPI normally does. The simple and straightforward question that respondents to the survey were asked was, how has the level of corruption in your country changed over the past year? Has it increased, has it decreased, or has it stayed the same? Suddenly, in our highly charged partisan political environment, this survey was wrongly interpreted as placing Ghana as the second most corrupt country in Africa. This is absolutely false. And for emphasis, I repeat, this is absolutely false. Despite all attempts by institutions that sponsored the report to correct this wrong interpretation, leading political figures have continued to spread this false impression. What can be the motivation for a section of our population to be so obsessed with trying to claim such an undignified title for ourselves at the expense of our nation's dignity and our international image? I leave the matter to the consciences of such persons. Sad to say, many other media networks, including our own respected national daily, the Graphic, also ran along with this falsehood and got the entire country engaged in a conversation that should never have taken place. Not only did the conversation end up misleading the Ghanaian public, it indeed also gave our country an undeserved negative image amongst the Committee of Nations and the international community as a whole. In fact, it was to avoid this kind of misinterpretation of the results that the survey methodology in the report itself stressed the fact that the results for each country, and I quote, are based on the subjective perceptions and experiences of citizens rather than an assessment against a common objective benchmark.
The president has ended.
Well, listening to the president, I don't think he has told us anything new and different from what we know. His worry is that it appears people are interpreting it in a way that he doesn't want them to interpret it. And that the survey was among 28 countries. And then what people said was mainly about perception. So if it's 28 countries and the perception is that people feel that there's corruption in their country, and when we're ranking, those in various countries, the second highest number came from Ghana. But people have made it to look like Ghana is the second corrupt in Africa. So it's skewed and it's falsehood, and I don't really get it. Because in the first place, is corruption perceived and rare in Ghana? It is.
Oh.
Is the government acknowledging that there's perceived and rare corruption? Yes. Now, look at even when we were going to look for $1 billion, the Eurobond situation. We sent out prospectus, and I have a copy here dated October 2015. And in the report, page 21, it's saying that part of the risk that anybody coming to invest in Ghana should anticipate is rare and perceived corruption. And then even gave the rankings that if you look at the last corruption perception index, we were 61 out of 135. And if you look at World Bank Doing Business Report 2015, we ran 70 out of 189 countries. And that this is a major risk. However, the government, as of last year, had brought out the National Anti-Corruption Action Plan, which they are following. But this is a major decision. And then, unfortunately, spent or used 50% of the statement on the judges' situation. It's all here. And even for the judges' situation, it's not the government which brought this out, which they have admitted. It's an individual who managed to bring all this out. And then tries to say that we are doing something about procurement. There's the National Anti-Corruption Agenda, our action plan, and then judges too are facing charges and dismissals. So all these are efforts.
Let me ask you,
fighting corruption.
As far as we're concerned, what are the variables you are seeing today, have witnessed the last couple of years, that gives you the indication that the perception that the people portrayed or the respondents portrayed in that survey are real, in terms of real cases or scenarios?
Yes.
Either government has dealt with them or hasn't dealt with them. As a result of that,
well,
we are dealing with them or not dealing with them. So the impression
you get is that the average person hears every day that there's corruption. But the same average person who we interviewed feels that government is not doing enough, in the sense that they will hear the matter is in court, they will hear the Attorney General has promised retrieving some monies, they will hear that the Supreme Court has ordered that some monies will be retrieved. But the average person thinks that even the pace is slow. Because if 2 years down the line, the person, the layman, what he hears is that Supreme Court says, we paid money to some companies, some individuals, they were not entitled to it, go for the money. Every person wants to hear that indeed
in 2 months' time you've collected
this is how far you've gone, even retrieving it. Or even your own commission of inquiry or your own committee that you set up. These are the findings. Go after those who were giving money and who were not entitled to those monies. How far have you gone?
What about the steps that have been taken that, well, on face value, seem to give the indication that government is committed to ensuring that whatever the difficulties are or the problems that have been uncovered are being resolved?
You remember Professor Yanka making a statement about even the presidency. Some people are found to be wanting in managing affairs at a certain level, and they are sent to the presidency, and you could list them. It became a big issue, but even he as a professor, look at the perception that he has. How much for the average person? Now, whether we like it or not, if you go deeper into it, if we don't change the way we do things, there will be corruption and there will be perception. Let me give you an example. If your state institutions, your major state institutions, you decide to appoint chief executives who almost all of them are politicians. That's number one. I'm not even saying that it should only happen to them. It can happen to even my government, my party. If in your decision to appoint heads of institutions, the average or even above average is politicians.
A political
appointment.
Yes.
One, it becomes difficult for you to fire that politician. Two, it becomes difficult for you to expose him. Three, it becomes difficult for you to prosecute him. That is one problem that we are facing in this country. Look at all the state institutions, either a board chairman or a chief executive is a top politician. And if you go it that way, the average person working in that institution knows that there's something wrong. But average person thinks that because that person is so closely aligned to government, he may not be touched, or if he's touched, it's just a reshuffle. Now look at even the Auditor General's report. 2014, the latest report, the Auditor General is lamenting that more or less I'm tired, because every year I bring a report, and the report is complaining about infractions, irregularities, embezzlement in the assemblies. And I expect especially the Minister for Local Government to do something about it, to take certain steps. But I'm afraid to tell you in this latest 2014 report, I'm not seeing much from the Minister of Local Government.
And you think that's self-indicting?
That's self-indicting. So that whatever way we look at it, if you're a government and then you overlook some of these things, the issues will come hitting you. Now, if you look at public procurement, I think that going forward, public procurement should be so independent, and it should be like even the Auditor General's office, as to how persons are appointed, as to their tenure and security of office. Because
so that they become insulated, especially when they take actions.
Yes,
that
because you have certain institutions where people even give verbal contracts, and then they try to regularize it by writing to public procurement, sole sourcing. Then they, before you are aware, they get that approval.
You've had instances like that?
Even in committees and commissions of report. Let's take Maputo committee report. If you read it, it says that the chief executive of the sports authority gave verbal instructions for a travel tour agency to be given a contract worth almost 1 million Ghana cedis. And the minister even complained that next time there should be enough correspondence because verbal contract has its own implications. Now what has happened to that? You can go on and on. Let's put the lenses on state institutions. Before we even come to ministries, let's go to state institutions.
Okay, from what Obi is saying, is it more of a systemic problem, like what the president is saying, or what you are even alluding to, but more of a, or less of a governmental issue? Because as a people, we have our customs and traditions and our norms that has also tend to influence our behavior patterns and the way we even undertake business. We relate to state institutions, state personalities, etc.
Well, first of all, let me say that the president has said it all regarding the specific issue that has generated all this.
In terms of the misinterpretation.
In terms of the misinterpretation.
In his opinion.
The lack of enough data to make decision, and the methodology that was employed by the initiative to do the analysis were not representative enough, and the questionnaire did not target the real issue itself. It was as if to ambush, to get people to say something, and then they come out to say, what you say means that the whole of Africa, you are this. You know, so that should rest, and people should not be happy to be tagged that way, and I do agree with that. But I agree with him in a few instances when he talked about the situation in our ministries, our departments, our agencies, regarding how we perceive in the normal way, you know, as usual, giving out contracts without necessarily insisting that the process must be followed.
Is that what we do?
He mentioned some issues, and I said that, and he gave specific examples. You know, I can't say no to that, because these are things that sometimes will come up. And when they do come up, it's important that we come together to condemn them, that process by which sometimes it cuts across all the systems, all the governments, where, you know, we are complacent in giving out contracts that will not pass through the real procedures, you know, because we are sometimes complacent in curtailing the process, which he indicated and showed an example in which even a minister had to complain. You know, I'm saying that those ones can be addressed and should be addressed. But in totality, this result is not about governments being corrupt. In fact, I haven't seen a government that is so committed in fighting corruption as the John Mahama's government. We were the ones that brought up the JIDA issue. Nobody told us to bring it up. We brought it up.
It was something by a news reporter.
Yeah, but I'm saying that we decided to investigate it, and we decided...
Following that report, you say?
Yes. The National Service one, we decided to bring it up. The president himself was involved in it, and he got it up, and has been worked on it, and until we got the results. The analysis first issue in which President Mills' administration, encouraged him to go to the harbor to do what he did. We did it. The judges thing that has happened, we haven't been directly associated with it, but we give our blessings.
You didn't have any option.
Yeah.
That one, you didn't have any option.
We didn't have any option. But what I'm saying is that we are not against it. You
mean you don't suppress?
We don't suppress that.
You show commitment.
Yes, we have shown commitment to these things. So in effect, it is our commitment to make sure corruption is either eliminated or curtailed. It has become, you ask a question as whether it is systemic problems, whether it is part of the, and that's the first comment I made when I was speaking, that this thing that we are corrupt, the perception that we are corrupt is as to the ordinary citizen as it is to the leadership or the governance system. And we have to be worried about it. Every single person must be determined not to allow corruption to be part of our lives. It's so important. And so they should stop calling politicians to come and give them money when they know they don't have the money. They should stop telling them to come and do big things when they know they don't have the money to do the big things. The system, the people themselves must be aware, and they must be the first point of change, that they should insist that members of government should not be seen to be the affluent people they conceive in their minds, and therefore are compelling them to pay school fees, to do funerals, to do things that they don't have the strength to do. Multiply the few things they do every day by the number of people who are asking them to do it. What we are telling them is that they should go out of their way to find money and do it, and that is unacceptable. We all want to see a government that is corruption-free. We want to see a government and a people that are determined to stay out of it. So the little money we get, we use it to do public projects to the benefit of the totality of the population.
Yes. Obi, the president made mention of the fact that it is as a result of what the interpretation of the media tends to give some of these things. And when you read communication theories very well, they tell you media is a reflection of what the society is, or perhaps consistent agenda setting by the media also tends to reflect the mindset of the people. At the end of the day, is it not a possibility that the concerns of the president is the truth? That you politicians also take advantage of scenarios to trumpet, and as a result of that puts the country's reputation into disrepute somehow?
Well, there are two situations. One, the government is the biggest employer in the public service. Two, the government is the biggest spender in the public service. Almost every contract that you can think of is coming from government purse. Even if you are going for loan to be able to take contracts, government is the biggest thing. So government should be seen to be doing so much so that the average person will know that corruption is going down. Even the corruption that the average person is talking about, it's not a situation of where you have to procure an item for $2 million and you make it $9 million. The average person may not even be aware of it. But the average person is worried that if he has to go and register his document at Lands Commission, he has to go through so much bureaucratic process. But if he's able to pay something, the process is shortened. Once he comes out, he will say that, I've encountered it. I was going to look for a passport, and this is what I had to go through. I was going to look for a driving license, and this is what
Is that not more of a systemic problem? It's like our attitudes that really...
It's not attitudes. It's not attitudes. In
the
the sense that,
in itself has
in a sense that if you say people should now do exams before they even get a driver's license, and somebody comes to tell you that I had to go and pay, but when I paid, I got a license.
But you say people should not do exams?
No, I'm saying that it's a personal encounter. He thinks he has to go through the process, the exams. But now he has been told that if you're able to pay money, the process will be shortened. And indeed, the person did it and got it.
No, government is not the one who made the decision to go and influence somebody to make a shortcut.
Look, remember when the ANAS issue came, I sat here and said that I'm not impressed. Not about ANAS, but about government. In the sense that, does it have to take an individual without much resources, without maybe very trained staff, to be able to unearth this? In the judiciary, do they have a system that can bring out these things?
Security agency. I remember you mentioned that.
In this, and our security agencies, why are they paid? If FBI can take on almighty FIFA, if FBI can take on almighty FIFA,
BNI cannot take on the GFA.
That's not the example I want to give. But how come BNI was not cited anywhere in this whole ANAS issue? You understand? And it's not for what resources will ANAS have, but how even are we resourcing an institution like BNI to be able to do these things? And how independent enough is BNI? Because FBI, if they have to go for the president, they'll go for the president. You understand? But if we don't make conscious effort to build our institutions, to resource our institutions, to make them that independent, we'll be sitting here every year talking about this matter. Shiraj, what is the fate of Shiraj now? They are supposed to investigate administrative injustice and all those things. It's not only about human rights. Well, how well are they resourced? How independent?
So it's the strengthening of the institution that's becoming...
And there should be a conscious effort. That's why I'm saying that part of my solution is that if I don't put a politician as head of an institution, it will be easy for me to check him and fire him.
But that is not a government of the day issue, is it? It's a problem for all the governments we've had.
No, but when people say that for all governments, sometimes I take it with a pinch of salt, because whether you like it or not, the Ghana that Jerry Rawlings ran in 81 or 93 is not the Ghana of today. Things that we were allowing and were doing 20 years ago, we should not be seen or heard citing them and saying that it's business as usual. We should see so much progress, just like when you gave birth to your child when the child was 1 year and the child is now 15 years. You know, your treatment for them will not be the same. So if things have gone on 30 years, 20 years, even a decade ago, and your solution is the same solution as of now, you're not going to make any impact. And some of these things, they are conscious. Why would you appoint a politician to go and run a major institution, and then the politician thinks that he is there to satisfy the government of the day? If he even is making money, once he's able to pull the plugs, he can still stay. The worst case scenario, you hear an announcement on there, he's being sacked, that's the end of it. We were in this country when the local government minister, said that some DCs have been sacked and they were being probed. As we speak now, almost 5 years now, we haven't heard anything about those investigations and the probes that we were talking about. If you do that, how are you going to fight it? And whether you like it or not, if you're a president, the load will be on you.
Okay. So is it a situation that government and you, the appointees of government, seem to think that no matter what you do, whether good or bad, or even if positively, showing a commitment towards anti-corruption, you would never get the credit?
No, at all. As I said, and I indicated with evidence, that government is determined to make sure corruption is a thing of the past, and we are making every effort to do it. But I do agree that we have a problem with our institutions. They are there to check these things. We have enough institutions to fight corruption. We have enough people to fight corruption. And that is the question to all of us in government. In fact, it is a question to the opposition in particular. If I am doing a path and you are behind me and you can see whether the path is wrong, right or wrong, and you are incapable of telling me where I'm going wrong,
They'll say they tell you, you just don't want to acknowledge that your path is crooked.
No, this is the first time he's raising an issue about people who have been probed and who
really?
I haven't heard it anywhere. Okay. DC is. I mean,
it's not just talking in the media, but making formal efforts to make sure.
You see, when we talk about the failure of the system itself to correct itself, and the failure of the people themselves to rise up to occasions that will set things right. We are talking about an opposition that represents them in parliament, that represents them out of the parliament, who have a mouth to speak, who have a voice of their own, and who have a voice of the people who are disadvantaged and are failing to talk about it. You know, so it is a culmination of failure that you can find in the system and can find in the representative of those who see things go wrong or who perceive things going wrong, and I cannot represent them adequately for people to sit up and correct them. But essentially, we must strengthen our institutions, but not just the institutions, but the psychology of our people have to be worked on. Our mentality that is business as usual everywhere we are must be fought. You know, if we cannot change our attitudes, and I'm saying this not just to anybody who becomes a politician one day and becomes a leader one day, but all those people who are in the system and have been working for 20 years, 40 years, and still think that it is the normal thing to do until they retire. You know, they find comfort zones in where they do. They don't want to bring up anything that will be new.
Okay.
You know, don't fear for your life. If you can raise an issue and get a hearing, it's important to raise those issues. I'm saying all this for you to see how much we in government, I'm a minister, are committed into getting things done. We are not afraid if people bring up issues against us. We want to investigate them and then we want to produce results. It is our determination to make sure that we make this place a very safe place to do business and a very attractive place to have confidence in when you are dealing with the Ghanaian and the Ghanaian worker, the public servant, the politician, and the ordinary everyday person on the streets.
Okay.
Yeah.
You wanted to say something? Or no, I wanted us to touch on it.
Yes, just one small point. Unfortunately, I go to programs with members of government, and the impression I get is that they become preachers. We have to do this, we have to do this. You are in charge, do it.
We are doing it.
We are in charge, do it.
We are doing it the way we can. So if we are failing, you need to tell us we are failing.
Yes, so
but you see, everything, opposition has become radio opposition. They talk about radio and that is it. They don't even know what to do. Minister, but we are not to tell them what to do.
I allowed you to make your submission.
Yes.
It's giving me 1 minute. Let me also make a point. Fine, we are talking about radio and TV opposition, but we are informing the whole world. Apart from that, some of these issues, we raise them on the floor of the House. Every time we debate State of the Nation or budget, we bring these issues out. Even this week, some of these issues, latest ones, we brought them out. So don't give the impression that we just come and sit on radio and TV and we talk, there's no evidence, and that's the end of it. But I'm saying that you are in charge. Don't preach to us. Can you imagine if we had a strong institution, what it could do with what ANAS has done? We could have million ANASs. Every institution would then be on guard. That, hey, this is the system. If I flout it, I'm in trouble.
You mean, supposing we had a quasi-state institution like that?
Yes.
That was in the state or replica of Tiger Eye?
Yes.
That would just uncover things and keep everybody shaking, whether you're a government person or not a government person.
The way we even recruit, the way we recruit people even to the judiciary. Oh, I know this man, so court clerk, registrar, this. And then we allow them to mess everything up. As if there's no institution or there's no state. It has to take an ass to come and do this.
Anyway, I wanted us to touch on utility tariffs, but we can't. We have to do entertainment, and that'll be it for the morning. Dr. Rashid Pelpo is Member of Parliament for Wa Central, but also Minister of State at the Presidency in charge of private sector, the PPPs, and also Biamwa, Member of Parliament for Ikwapim South. Thanks, the two of you.
Thank
and
you.
I see you're very passionate about this very issue. And I know
I said we have become radio and TV.
I wouldn't say that's a fair comment on his part. But I think also he's making that based on observation. So.
Oh, I don't know why you say it's not fair. It's fair.
Okay.
Where else do they present their ideas?
No, don't we talk?
We're taking a break. When we come back.